Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Team VVV podcast. I'm joined today by Martin.
Hello.
And Kevin.
Hi, guys.
Okay, chaps. Well, it's been some time, viewers, since we had a video podcast. Goodness, we've got to get the cogs working again, oil them and get into the motion of getting this out once a week for you guys. There's a lot of racing news happening right now, and I thought, let's have a chat, guys, about what's going on. I haven't prepped any of this, so we're going to go in cold and we're going to talk about it. Let's kick off first with, of course, Burnout Revenge coming to Xbox One's backward compatibility. Martin, talk about it.
Not to start on a downer, but Burnout Revenge is my least favourite Burnout game in the entire series.
And there you have it, viewers.
There you go.
So Burnout Revenge is coming to backward compatibility.
But we don't care.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because I remember it was enhanced for the Xbox 360 and I never got to play it. But I just really think that was the weakest entry in the whole series because the traffic checking just took all of the skill out of it.
That's
when you compare it to the first three games.
Yep.
But the main appeal was just the fact you're on the edge of your seat all the time, dodging the traffic, getting into battles of the opponents. Burnout Revenge just took all of that away. Yeah,
I mean, I agree. I mean, for me, I loved Burnout 1 and 3 are my favourites probably in the series for different reasons. And, Burnout 1 was quite, well, I have to say, it was heart-stopping stuff when you were racing and dodging all the traffic. It really was edge of your seat stuff, and there'd always be that car pulling out the worst possible moment, but you could sort of get used to the timing when you became extra badass at it. When it came to Burnout 3, I think the graphics just were so stunning, they just blew us all away, and it was so much fun to play online as well. Even though it was like the sort of crappy EA early online system, it was still great fun if you weren't all being kicked out of the lobby. But no, it's an addition, isn't it? They're trying to keep Burnout going, but they started off by bringing in two of the sort of Burnout games that are an acquired taste in that sense.
I'll say that Paradise was quite well received on the whole, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was well received. It never appealed to me personally.
Okay.
I don't know why. It just didn't appeal to me as much as in an open world type style. I don't know why at the time. It just didn't appeal to me. I always liked the more intense, funneled racing experience of Burnout. I just found it much more intense. I suppose in a way like a sort of split second vibe in that way. Goodness, I'd love to see a new split second game, but it's never going to happen.
I agree. I preferred the set track, the set track you had on the older games, because if you're like me and have no sense of direction, it's quite easy to get lost. Burnout Paradise to win a race.
Very true.
I do think the game was very ahead of its time, though, for a number of reasons.
Well, Paradise we're talking about now.
Paradise, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it had that sort of open world style. You had, lots and lots of stuff to do. It was very hard to get to 100% in that game. It was just so epic.
The seamless finding everything. And no game has had better car damage than Burnout Paradise apart from Breakfast, which hasn't been released yet, so it doesn't count.
No, exactly. My goodness me, Wreckfest, eh? One day it'll be released. One day, Martin. And it continues to be very popular on our channel as well. Your videos almost reached 1 million views on Next Car Games. That continues to surge.
How did that ever happen?
It's a funny thing with YouTube, isn't it? I mean, there are videos that I've slaved over for hours, making sure they're edited and look perfect. And then there are other videos where I just put up a bit of gameplay after a few minutes play and they do tons of views. It's the mysteries of YouTube. It never makes any sense, viewers, but we endeavor to just put out the content and it goes where it may. Now, just moving on to MotoGP 18 shown this week. First bit of gameplay. Kevin, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't sort of mind-blowing. The graphical, the visuals wasn't exactly mind-blowing considering it's on the Unreal Engine 4. I guess I expected a little bit prettier graphics. Having said that, it still looks good. I was impressed with the movement of the bike itself as well. You had these very sort of subtle movements on the rear of the bike. You see the suspension sort of working away, so all that looks good. But I guess it's all going to come down to actually getting your hands on the game. How satisfying is it to, lean the bike around these turns? I mean, you can't really decide that looking at gameplay. But from what I've seen so far, I guess visually it looks nice. It sounds are okay, not fantastic, but they're okay. I guess it's very much sort of going it's like a foundation game again, I guess. Where they're using a new engine, they're gonna take maybe a year, maybe two, to really sort of get to grips with the engine in terms of where the MotoGP series is going to go. So I guess it's sort of, you have to look at this as very much as a sort of fresh start, I guess, for the series. So far, I guess they're off to a good start, aren't they?
They are. I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? They have a year to make a game. And, on this game, they're moving to a new graphics engine, new physics engine. So we'll work with a graphics engine. New physics engine means new sound engine, because the sound system, I know people just look at audio as a separate thing, but it's actually connected to the physics, so that when things happen in the physics, they connect to the audio perfectly. And that's a much more complex thing in making good audio than people realize. So all of these things are being worked on. And when a game is released year on year, development teams only have a few months to, improve the game before they have to put it together and polish it and get it out the door for next year. So in that sense, I think we're sort of another stepping stone, aren't we? We are where F1 was in, say, 2015, when we knew that Codemasters, needed to get somewhere. And here we are, F1 2017, and they've achieved a stunning result. I think it's going to be the same with Milestone, with MotoGP. I think there are some elements that perhaps aren't quite where they wanted it, and there are some elements where it's going to improve substantially. So
that says to me they should have moved to the new engine probably a few years earlier.
I think it's always easier said than done, isn't it? I think there's always sort of investment involved as well. I mean, there's a lot of investment involved in these companies. It's especially when it's corporate decision making and stuff like that.
Just what you said about the progression of F1 2015 to 17, because obviously MotoGP is at that stage where F1 was 3 years ago.
Yeah, but I think you got to see where F1 was as a company, where Codemasters were as a company. Yeah. They were 3 times the size of Milestone 6 years ago, in terms of their overall scale. So Milestone, I think, are catching up. I think that when we start the next generation, that Milestone will have finally caught up with other key developers on the market, and they'll be able to deliver in just the same way. And I think we'll see that in their releases for this year and next year. But whatever way we look at it, there's radical improvements. But I think, are they going to keep up with expectation of viewers? Well, that's another thing entirely, isn't it? I mean, everyone has a perception of what they want in the perfect game, and it's just not possible in terms of an annual franchise to get there overnight. I think if they had the chance to release one game every 5 years and work on it, then obviously it would be stunning. But
I'm assuming it won't be running at 60 frames either on consoles, as that was one of the main selling points of last year's game, wasn't it?
It was, and in that sense, it's a setback, isn't it? I mean, it's a shame that we've moved from 60 frames, and I thought it ran really nicely last year. I thought it sounded great, played well. I think it was the best MotoGP game for some time. I think it's a shame that we're moving across to the new tech.
I don't think it has the managerial career mode either, which was also a new feature of last year's game.
No, it's kind of been stripped back to the basics. Having said that, there are apparently improvements in AI, bike physics, collisions and stuff. And there's also some sort of damage system and tyre management system as well. So it does have some fresh elements. But ultimately, I guess people will perceive this as being, some elements taken out, which might not necessarily please a lot of fans. But I guess if they get the core right, the handling of the bikes, then it's going to be a satisfying game to play, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely. So MotoGP, we're going to have a preview on that soon. Keep an eye out on the channel, preview coverage, and I'll play it, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. But either way, I think so far so good. It's looking good. Let's wait and see what it looks like as well on the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. That's one thing Milestone aren't doing, and quite a few developers aren't. Is I wish they would add 1080p 60 modes to the Pro and the Xbox One X, because they're comfortably powerful enough to deliver that experience. So that's MotoGP. Next up is, of course, Onrush coming on the 5th of June. Of course, that was shown recently at the EGX Res show. Lots of improvements there made. And there's going to be an open beta for it next week as well. So looking forward to that. Not not much to say on Onrush at the moment, is there really? Other than we look forward to new modes and testing it out. What are your thoughts, Martin?
Yeah, like I said, we just haven't really seen enough of it at the moment. I played it myself at EGX and I had a good time overall, but I just have this nagging thought: will it last? You know, like, is there enough depth to it? That's not really something I had enough time to figure out whilst at EGX. But yeah, from what we've seen so far, it looks fast, frantic, fun. Yeah. Yeah, the release is certainly creeping up at the moment, isn't it? Where are we? About 3 weeks away now.
We are. We're not long. I mean, it's finished now, isn't it? Really, apart from day one patch that will probably come. There's that's about it. I mean, they have released the achievements for it this week as well. So lots of random achievements there that are sort of meaningless in terms of reading them. It's going to be how they all work in gameplay. I saw someone moaning on the comments that I didn't make the game look exciting enough because I wasn't doing flips on jumps and stuff. To me, none of that really matters. What matters to me is what's the strategy, how much fun do I have using strategy to win? And I really want to see what I can bring to it, in terms of strategy and my own gameplay style. And that's something I wasn't necessarily able to see in the sort of gates mode where you all rush into each gate. It did seem to be a bit of a confusing melee. Nobody really seemed to know what was going on. So there's
things where it relies on team strategies. If everyone's not bored,
yes,
it becomes a bit of a disjointed experience, doesn't it?
Yes, and suddenly you teleport and move halfway up the track, and you're like, "Oh, I thought I was in the action, but clearly I wasn't." It does happen sometimes. So, yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the version I played was very early. A lot has been added to it since, and we'll have to wait and see how it all comes together. But I do feel that's going to be a rather interesting team chat review, and I look forward to you guys playing it. And seeing what we think of it. I'm going into this with a completely open mind, this one, but we have to wait and see what the game is like nearer the time, because it's something that it's got a lot of potential, but it's also got a lot of potential not to be what we want it to be as well. So certainly that is another one coming up. Now, next in terms of news, ad hoc news today is Williams have launched their eSports today. I mean, I'm just mentioning it. Where is it going, esports? We have no idea. Where are these teams going? What do they think they're going to get from it? What kind of championships are they going to be? Who knows? But it's a thing. It's happened, and we'll keep an eye on it, and that news will be on the website. We've got Trailblazers released this week as well. Kevin, you've made a video on Trailblazers. Tell us your first impressions on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun enough arcade racer. It has this interesting mechanic where you paint the track for yourself and your teammates to boost on. So it has a sort of element of strategy. Do you actually create your own fast racing line, or do you use your paint to effectively paint over your teammates' colours? So they can't actually boost themselves. So it has a nice bit of strategy. The visuals are decent. It has this sort of cell shaded effect, a bit like Borderlands, I guess. So it has some interesting visuals to it. I wish the tracks were a little bit more complicated. Personally, I feel they're a little bit too easy, but then perhaps that's because they want to appeal to a younger generation. You have this sort of future punk music soundtrack as well, which I feel adds nicely to the game. It does sort of fit the theme very well, actually. So
Jet Set Radio, actually, the music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something you don't often hear.
That's a series that's been dormant for a long time.
A great series. I mean, again, that's Sega wasting its IPs as usual.
But let's just continue on, because we don't want to moan about these Sega IPs, because my God, there's so many of them. Trailblazers, it's a decent game. It has some flaws. The AI sometimes are a little bit prone to bumping into you, and obviously that's not a good thing. It could send you facing the wrong way, for example, which is very frustrating. And I find the vehicles overall a little bit understeery, so it's easy to hit the sides of the track, and once you've sort of hit the side of the track, you're almost sort of stuck there for a little bit. So it takes a bit of effort to get off the rail and back into the action. So it does have one or two flaws. Currently working on the review, which should be up on the site very shortly, actually. So you'll be able to read my thoughts in detail on the review coming up.
Excellent. With hovering cars, right? Is what we're trying to say.
It's Splatoon with cars, in that sense. Yeah. Splatoon with cars. I mean, I'm going to play it in the next few days, so we'll probably talk about this again on a future podcast. But either way, it looks really nice, really colourful, very pretty, nice concept. And, you know, it's just one of those games where I saw somebody say there's not enough people playing it on release day, you know, to play online and find matches. And it's always the way now, isn't it? There's so many games being released.
That's right.
So many.
It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
For these indie developers to actually have an active community online. It's just, like you say, it's one of those things. We have so many games released these days. It never used to be the case, of course.
No.
So everyone's competing. You know, competition is fierce. And just to make any money on an indie game nowadays is a huge challenge.
It is. Now, just a quick one here. We've got Urban Trial. Which one's Playground?
Playground. Yep.
You've been playing this, Martin. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it scratches that itch for a stunt bike racer on the Switch. But it's it just doesn't have the same depth as Trials. I guess they're aiming for a more casual audience. But on the whole, I did find it to be a bit too short-lived. The career is not very long. There's not that much variety in levels either. So in the earlier Urban Trial games, the environments were always set in a sort of dark and dingy city, whereas now they've gone for this sort of sunny California setting, which I did find gets a bit samey after a while. I mean, they're trying to spice it up with different locations like shopping malls and towns and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just found it a bit too short-lived. I think it's one of those games that's best played in short bursts because you will fly through it quite quickly. And also, I didn't find it very challenging in some of the later levels because your Trials is renowned for being, let's just say your controller won't last very long if you play Trials too long.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't find that with Urban Trial Playground.
That's a surprise hearing you say that because it's like you say, it's a genre that sort of lends itself to controller smashing episodes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is just because it is a Nintendo exclusive, so they're trying to appeal to a more casual audience. But
do you think it's a good fit for the platform, this sort of game?
On the whole, yes, because it has that pick up and play appeal where the levels only last a few minutes, and definitely for a handheld experience, it's good. But I wouldn't recommend it quite so much played in docked mode.
Because this used to be on a few platforms, didn't it? Mobile, PlayStation, Xbox.
Yeah, the whole point of Urban Trials is basically to offer a Trials experience on consoles other than Xbox, because obviously Trials was an Xbox exclusive at one point. So again, Trials has never been released on Switch, so obviously this kind of fills the void. But I think it had potential to be more than it is. I think that's not very well put, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, certainly, Trials on a handheld would be awesome, but in this case, it doesn't seem like it quite hits the mark, which is a bit of a shame. One, just to point out, sticking with the handhelds, Waverace could come to Nintendo Switch. I would love a Waverace that captured the atmosphere of the N64 original. I love the N64 version when it was released. It was just, you could tell that the technology was beyond them in many respects. It had big borders and everything, but wow, I'd love to see something like that if it captured it effectively on the Switch. In a way, it still had more reactive water than even the Crew 2 does today. The Crew 2 still has a solidity to its wonderful looking water, whereas in Waverace, the water seemed very sort of malleable in the terms of whenever you sloshed everywhere, it seemed to be physics seemed to work perfectly with you.
Having said that, though, I have heard that the Crew 2 apparently has 10-foot waves thrown in at some point, at least. So
yeah, when you go,
I'd love to see it. But...
Yeah, I've seen the big waves. So when you go out into this sort of exiting New York, you go into the sort of the Atlantic area there, and you do get storms and big wave surges and stuff like that. Yeah, so it does get a lot rougher. My main point wasn't so much the waves; they're all brilliant. It's to do with the way your boat affects the water and goes into the water and stuff. And that's the thing that I find isn't always as well simulated. So it's almost like you've got this solid water animation that's amazing. Then you've got your boat, and you just sort of put them together and put some white bits around it. And that's about it. But moving on, sticking with biking, really, you've just done your review for Isle of Man TT, Martin. Thoughts on Isle of Man TT, very briefly?
Thoroughly enjoyed it, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It's definitely a game you need to take the time to master. But as we said before, stunning recreation of the Isle of Man TT circuit. Graphically, it's definitely one of the most impressive racing games based on real-life locations we've seen. Looking forward to the new update actually coming out this month as well with the new sidecars. I think I'll add a bit more replayability to the game because there's not really enough bike disciplines, classes. There's nothing. Yeah. I think it really needed another class of bike to sort of ease you in, a less powerful class to ease beginners in a bit more because it's very, very challenging. Definitely one of the hardest racing games I've played in a long time.
It's the new Dark Souls of racing games. I think it's taking the crown from Dirt Rally. So these sidecars for me personally are going to add so much to the game because it's going to be a little bit more accessible. Get a bit more fun with it because it is very intense otherwise, isn't it, on the two wheels? So I think the sidecars is going to add a lot to this title.
Yes, it will add. As echo your thoughts, really, it's a hard game, isn't it? It didn't quite get the difficulty curve right in terms of easing you in. And I mentioned it even in videos at the time. It needed an entry-level bike just to make it more fun, just to learn the course, if anything. It's a bit like when you learn how to drive a cab. You get on a scooter, you attach a little map to it, and you drive around London forever. And that's kind of what you needed to do, is get on your scooter and go around the course and get used to it and learn the corner names and the braking points and stuff like that. Certainly, you need to have the knowledge when doing the Isle of Man TT. It's impressive, but it is also really, really hard. But just a quick look over various news. Is there anything else that sort of come up recently, chaps, that you wanted to talk about?
Forza Horizon 4's location may have leaked. That's quite big news, although it is obviously a rumor at this point. And probably won't happen, but we can dream.
UK, I was hearing, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
There's some cars leaked, some DLC cars leaked for Forza Motorsport 7, and they all happen to be British cars. So a lot of fans are put two and two together and basically spread the rumor around that the next Forza Horizon game will be set in the UK, which I wouldn't complain about at all. I'd be quite happy with that.
Yeah, if you think back to Horizon 3, I believe there was Australian cars leaked or revealed prior, so that's why you sort of made the connection. But I really don't know if I want to see it in the UK because with Horizon, excuse me, Horizon is a very sort of festival atmosphere, very sunny, very vibrant. I'm not sure if the UK actually fits the Horizon theme. I'd love to see a test drive unlimited in UK, but I'm not sure if Forza Horizon is quite.
It's a good thing they've implemented rain effects in the recent games. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's like, I will say you've got some of the best roads in the world in the UK. You've got so much undulation, hillocky roads. Drive to Wales, for example, tremendous roads to race around there. Obviously, you can make it fake by having it sunny all the time rather than raining. But either way, we've had a nice
feature Manchester.
We say that now. We say that now, Kevin. It's boiling hot in your room as we speak. We've had sunny weather this week. We do get the sun.
But does it actually fit?
Well, I suppose you need a muddy festival, don't you? Muddy festival atmosphere. So, your festivals, it would be good if everybody was wearing wellies and you had sort of an off-road section where you just do a bit of spin tires.
Let me ask you a question, guys, right? Be honest now. Would you rather have it in UK or Japan?
For me personally, I would rather Japan because I like the midnight mountain races drifting down the hills. I think there's a lot you can do with all those different mountains. I like the idea of the neon lights in the cities at night and Tokyo highway battle racing on the highways. I think there's a lot you can do with that. At the same time, I kind of feel like where that really works is sometimes when you've got the risky side of it as well, and I feel there's no consequence in Forza Horizon. You can crash if you want to. There's no cops. There's nothing like that, and I feel it works more when you have more traffic rather than the odd car every 2 miles on the road. I think when you have a lot more at stake in terms of if you crash your car, it costs you to fix it. Then racing or Larry has more risk reward to it. Whereas in Forza Horizon, there's no risk really, is there? Who cares? I mean, you can drive like a loon, smash up your Lamborghini, but it doesn't cost.
I'll tell you what, though, one thing I want to see in Forza Horizon 4 is traffic lights.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I'm getting at, in the sense that you need that more realistic vibe to it. You know, if you're going to go somewhere like a place like Japan, it'd be nice to. Or even the UK, but as I see Japan, I see there is they could add that technicality, but the environments themselves. I mean, in Japan they've got mountains, they've got snow, and everything. I mean, that's one thing we don't have much of in the UK, is we don't have the variety that they have had in the various videos in the past. You know, it's not like they've got a snow area. They need to have like an imaginary warp gate to take you somewhere else, like they did, like the Hot Wheels sort of pack. But you know, I believe in playground games that whatever they're going to do is going to be a technical marvel, and it's going to look amazing, and they're going to do great stuff. So rest assured,
if it's set in either of those locations, we're already used to driving on the left because of Forza Horizon 3.
Yeah.
What would you rather see, Martin? Would you rather see the UK or Japan?
Probably Japan overall. I'd say it has a more distinct car culture. Arguably a better variety of locations. Yeah, I'd say Japan. It's not really a setting that's been done in a driving game, in any recent driving games, does it really, to my knowledge?
All about gut feeling. What do we think it's going to be?
I still think it could be Japan. It's been talked about for a long time.
More so.
I'd be surprised. I mean, the UK car culture is massive. You know, so much motorsport heritage. Most of the Formula One teams are here. When you look at the history of motorsport, so much of it is around the UK. The problem is that in recent years, they've increased the insurance premiums for those who want to mod their cars. And that's all but wiped out modding now in the UK. When you go to America or Japan, they have massively modded cars. They have LED lights all over them. They can paint them any colours. The law seems to have no effect on them, frankly. Whereas over here in the UK, it's not so friendly to people wanting to do that kind of stuff for their car without massive insurance premiums. And it's, as I say, it sort of wiped it out. When you go to the tracks show in the summer years ago, it used to be huge, and then really sort of, you know, quite a long time ago now, it sort of all changed and lost more and more of that sort of cultural vibe, if you like. It all became a bit more sensible. So, but either way, there's great car culture in both countries, and I think whatever they do, there's great roads, and they can make it look nice anyway. So there are some great country roads to race down in the UK. So that's that. Now, of more importance, one you're looking forward to, I know already, Kevin, it's very similar open world racer as well, is a Bus Simulator 18.
Hey.
So I think it's certainly one that you're going to be buzzing for, and I do look forward to your video. I will be seeing if we can get some access so you can take us on a bus ride. I don't know the location actually, so I'm going to go into that, and you can take us a little tour. Where is the bus ride, Kevin?
I believe it's in a fictional town. So,
my pulse is racing already.
Oh, I tell you, it's excitement with Kevin's bus driving action. So hopefully we can look forward to that in the future. Talking of which, like you were saying about thumbnail files being found in Forza Motorsport, that must be quite frustrating to Turn 10 now that they're able to discover that kind of detail. But at the same time, why do games developers always leave all this information on there? If it's downloadable content, you know, hide it. Which is quite interesting. Of course, we've got Assetto Corsa Competizione or whatever. I can never say the name. Say it to me. Say it to me, Kevin.
Competizione.
Competizione.
That's what I've got anyway. I'm not saying brand it's correct, but yeah.
No, that works. Competizione. That's fine. Brands Hatch featured, obviously. Great circuit, different times of day, weather, potential to be just all kinds of awesome there as well. Of course, Assetto Corsa to host Porsche E-Carrera Cup Italia Sports Series. Again, that's more exposure for them in the world of esports. It's going to be interesting in the world of esports, isn't it? You know, there's going to be so many options for people and stuff like that.
I think Assetto Corsa has potential to do very well. I'm not sure if it's coming out for consoles yet, but you know, it's going to be tough, isn't it? Having a simulation of that depth with weather and nighttime racing actually on the consoles. I imagine it's probably a step too far. So we'll at least get this on the PC anyway, and I think it'll do really well, and especially in the absence of GTR 3, which is supposed to come out this year. We've heard nothing on it, so it's not looking good.
Nothing about that since it was announced.
No. I mean, it seems very unlikely, doesn't it? It's going to come out this year now, so we'll wait and see. But we will, news viewers, when we have it, will be on the site. Horizon, what do we got? Horizon Chase. Which one's it called?
Chase Turbo.
That's it. Horizon Chase Turbo. I should know this because I've been chasing it up this week, but we should have some gameplay soon on Horizon Chase Turbo. It's a fun, simple outrun-esque type action. Besides that, I guess, yeah, that's it really with those. So we've got the 4 main releases coming up. We've had loads of news. That is just merely a small portion of news over the past week, viewers. Thanks for your time today, chaps. And of course, we'll catch up on more news next week, and we'll get more into a regular chit chat with a whole podcast as well, get it back into the old rhythm again. Certainly, as we build towards E3, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of podcasts over E3, and there'll be lots to talk about there, no doubt, as well. And we'll be talking about our preview to E3 soon, and what we think we could be looking forward to. We'll wait and see. Really, I tell you, I don't have many clues this year, but that's another thing entirely. Right, well, that's it for now, viewers. I hope you've enjoyed everything that we've talked about here today. Do let us know in the comments if there's anything you've missed you'd like us to talk about next time. And that's it from me and for the guys for now. There'll be more from us very soon.